It's 1997, and I'm freshly 18. And my young, dumb, rich friend Bobby had just moved to San Diego, and he was homesick. So he called me up and said, hey, let's celebrate you graduating a semester early, and let me fly you out for spring break. I said, I'm freshly out of the closet, fresh off the wrestling team. Bet. This will be fun. I should have remembered that Bobby is not the paragon of dependability. So I get to San Diego, and Bobby picked me up in this jalopy full of ravers. Okay, remember, it's 1997. You know, candy-colored bracelets and glow sticks and shit. And everyone is just rolling on E, and there is all sorts of like Daft Punk playing on the radio. And I said, Bobby, it is 10:30 in the morning. He's like, that's how we do in San Diego. I was like, all right. And so we get going in the car, and he goes, oh, Nate, something has come in, so I got to go take care of some business, okay? I was like, you mean something came up? He was like, yeah, sure. Okay. And so we get to this big, fabulous house. And we get there, and all of the ravers scatter like little candy-colored roaches. And I'm just like, okay. And we're walking through this house, and I'm looking down the hallway, and down the hallway comes the biggest, buffest, blackest dude I've ever seen in a short purple silk kimono robe. And he comes in and he looks at me up and down, and he goes, oh, well, look at you, honey. Bobby told me you were cute, but he didn't tell me you were all cinnamon skin and pearly white. Look at you. How cute are you? And I was in love. Because you got to remember, I was going to high school in Mormon Mesa, and this was 97, you know? And Calvin Klein was king. Young, hairless, white, heroin chic. Me, chubby, Latino, hairy, you know, loud. I didn't fit the bill. So I never got told that kind of thing until that week. Well, we're making small talk, and all of a sudden, Bobby looks at Ron and says, Ron, I have some business to take care of. Do you mind? And he's looking at me. And all of a sudden, Ron looks at me, and he goes, yeah, baby, he'll be fine. I'll take care of him. Don't worry about it. Bobby grabs a duffel bag and fucking books it out of there. And I said, where is Bobby going? And Ron looks at me and goes, oh, baby, Bobby is gone, honey. He went to the Bow's house, baby. He's not coming back for days. I was like, okay. He goes, oh, baby, you know rich people just believe in you everywhere. That's just their way. They just always assume you have a way of getting there. He's like, you'll be fine with me. But I do have some business I need to take care of. I mean, people got a lot of business here in San Diego. There's the second amount of business I've attended to since I've gotten here. So I was like, all right, well, you know, I guess I'm a guest in your house. He's like, yeah, I'm not leaving you alone in my house. I was like, okay. So we get going. And we go to this other dude's house, you know. This is no longer a certain setting. I'm now in liminal space. And he's talking to this guy, and all of a sudden he pulled out of this bag, up until that point, the biggest stack of weed I had ever seen, and plops it on the table. And I just stare at it. And then they look at me and they go, are you okay? And I go, that's weed. And they looked at me and they're like, yeah. I was like, it's cool. I've seen weed. Never mind, it was dare, right? So they just kind of like, okay, and then money changes hands, and we get back in the car. And Ron stopped and he looks at me, he goes, you judging me now? I said, no, sir. So he starts explaining to me that he was actually at the forefront of the medical marijuana movement. His friend Alan from the Navy had come back out to San Diego and seen what the new cocktail was doing to everybody. And sometimes the medicine was worse than the illness, and some people would rather die. Some people were wasting away, and they needed to get their appetite back. This was the only way to get calories into them. A friend of mine just reminded me of that. So he came out here because Alan had begged him to. Alan was his friend from the Navy. And he knew that Ron had a green thumb. And he said, we need to help our brethren. And Alan came out, and it's been history ever since. So that's what I did for that week. I hung out with Ron, and we ran weed to AIDS patients. And I met a lot of really cool people, but there's going to be some that stick out in my mind. And one of them, his name was Jerry. Jerry was an older gentleman, and you just look at him and you're like, I don't know if this guy even knows what gay means. But he and Ron were down, and they were counting money and stuff, and I'm looking at this dude's wall, and I said, is that you with Ronald Reagan? And he goes, yeah. I worked in the White House, kid. Under Reagan. I was there when they made fun of us in the press room. I was there when they said it was killing all the right people. I didn't know how to go back to my brothers and sisters and tell them that we had been abandoned from above, that no help was coming. So I didn't. Out of cowardice, I stayed silent and I stayed. I had a good paycheck, and I figured I would fix things when I got back to New York. I went back to New York, and my first thing to do was to take out my Rolodex and take out everybody who had died while I was gone. Soon, the power was bigger than the Rolodex. And you know, there was a mischief someday. Someday we could be our free little faggoty selves and our faggoty little lives in some faggoty place like Chelsea or Boys Town. But by the time he died, there was nobody left to call me to tell me about it. When I came back to New York, faggot traitor was scrawled into my door, carved. And I was. I couldn't leave the house for 3 months. I couldn't face the people who were left in the street. And Alan was a friend of mine from college. And he came over one night crying and screaming, "You're my friend, and I'm not going to let you do this to yourself. We can fix something." And he kicked my door down, threw me in the shower, packed up all my shit, and we were on our way here to San Diego before the sunrise. And I've been here ever since. And he looked at me, he said, "I'm worried for you. I don't know how you guys are going to do it without us. There's nobody left to guide you and show you the way. There's nobody left to show you how to fight, how to keep what we gained. And I really hope that someday that we stop being so afraid to look for love because that person might not be there in 4 months. I hope one day we get there." And Ron finally adjusts. He goes, "All right, enough. Thanks." And he looked at me, he goes, "Hey, baby, want to party like a drug dealer?" He took me to my first gay dance club. And as we were walking in, Ron looked at me, he goes, "This is us, baby. This is where we live. You know, your boss doesn't give you fucking credit. Your mom doesn't believe in you. Fuck it. You're here, and the beat's here, and I'm here, and we'll try again tomorrow. And if it doesn't work out tomorrow, I'll be here tomorrow too, baby. But now, let's do this." And he pointed, and it was just perfect timing because right when he pointed at the go-go dancer. I looked at this go-go dancer, and he looked at me and winked, and I fell in love again with the first of many go-go dancers. And at that moment, Thelma Houston's "Don't Leave Me This Way" started playing, and I was introduced into that euphoria that really is only open to us. If you know, you know. The next day, I woke up to a feather duster in my face. And as I moved it, it was the go-go dancer from last night. And he goes, "Hola, mijo. I got work to do in this area, and apparently you have work to do too. So I need you to move out of my space. And I looked at him and I was like, aren't you the go-go dancer from last night? He's like, hola, I'm Roxy. I was like, hi, I'm Nate. And I go, you don't look like a Roxy. Oh, no, my friend Alan gave it to me. I said, oh, the name Alan again. And he goes, oh, yeah, Alan. Alan met me when I was trying to sell some booty outside of the Eagle, the leather bar, not really knowing, it's kind of a buyer's market in that area, but I was trying my damnedest, and, a boy got to make money, and, but Alan would come by, give me some food and stuff, and some money, he never wanted anything from me. But one day, I got a little bad luck, and got a little beat up. So, but I had to be out the next day. So, I was out there with two black guys, para la chinga. And Alan comes up to me, and he just looks at me, and he goes, I got a couch. You don't have to do this anymore. And I said, oh, my God. It's like that song from the Police, Roxana. And he looked at me, and he goes, come on, Roxy. And I've been Roxy ever since. And then Alan arranged it with all his friends so that, I just go around and I help people clean their kitchens, and maybe I make a little food or something, or I feed the pets. And everybody just give me a little money, to pay for my little place and stuff, And I looked at him and I said, Alan seems like a really fucking dope guy. He's like, oh, there are people who I call a heartbeat. And, there are just times in your life when your heart breaks and it just stops, and you just don't want to keep going, And that heartbeat is that somebody that comes and kicks you and gets it going again and makes your heart beat again. That's a heartbeat. That's somebody who reminds you that you are somebody. And I said, am I going to meet Alan? And Alan's like, yeah, we are actually going to go over there now. I'm like, all right. And so as we're driving over, I just kind of mentioned, I wonder when Bobby's ever going to get back here. And he looks at me, he goes, baby, so have you not pieced this together by now? And I said, what? He goes, baby, you are collateral. Bobby left you with his drug dealer, baby. And I looked at him and I said, he goes, how do you think I know Bobby, baby? He goes, you're lucky you're with me. I would never hurt you, and I would never hurt anyone. This is a formality. But you need to face the truth of the situations you're in from the rest of your life. The rest of the world, as a colored person, as a disabled person, they're going to lie to you. They're going to tell you that what you're seeing, what you're feeling, and what you're thinking is not the truth. The rest of the world can lie to you, but don't lie to yourself. Always be honest with yourself about the situation you're in. I said, yes, sir. So we get to this house, and I'm so excited, right? But right before we open the door, Ron grabbed me by the wrist and says, listen to me. However he looks great. Do you understand me? I said, yes, sir. So we walk in, and it's a big, beautiful, pristine, white house. And it's quiet, and the only thing I hear is hissing in the distance. And we start walking down the hallway. And I realize we're going to the bedrooms, and we get to the bedroom at the very end, and I freeze in the doorway because there's a big hospital bed, and the thing I've been hearing is a respirator. And Ron gently pushes me in from the small of my back. And he goes up to the bed, he goes, Alan, baby, I have a new friend. He's one of Bobby's strays. You know how this goes. But he's going to hang out here while I go do some stuff in the kitchen, okay? And he looks at me and he goes, you just tell him who you are and where you're from and what you find fun and stuff. And I'm looking at this figure. I said, okay. And Ron leaves, and I'm just kind of taking in this skeletal figure in the bed. And this hand crawled across the bed and grabbed my hand. And I'm surprised by the warmth and the strength of it. And I look into some of the deepest green eyes I've seen. And somehow he smiled at me, and there's something in me that clicked, and it was home. He didn't have to ask me any questions. I just knew he knew me somehow, that he saw me. And I babbled, just in shock. So I was just talking about my, little post-high school life, whatever. And then I start looking around, and I realized that the walls are covered in framed articles and pictures. Act up, fight AIDS, protest. And finally, I see a picture, and it's Alan and Ron. And they're both behind a sign that says, "We were here," and their fists are raised. And that's when it just hits me. How small and stupid my life had been up until that point. That I had never been of service to anyone, that I had never healed anyone's heart. And that the fact that you could do all of that, and it all comes to just this. A quiet white bedroom, where one of the great loves of your life is in the kitchen, boiling eggs. And tears just started falling. And as they hit my arm, Alan wiped them off my arm and looked at me and shook his head. And we just stayed silent. And finally, Ron came back. And as we were on the way back, we were silent, and he looked at me, he goes, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah." As we pulled up to Ron's house, Bobby's standing in front of him. And my heart broke, because it's that end of the summer feeling where you're never going to see this person again. You're never going to feel this way again. And I think Ron knew that, because as I was coming around the car, he looks at me, he goes, "This is it, huh, baby?" I said, "Yeah." And he looks at me, he goes, "You need to remember everything you've learned here." I said, "I know." He goes, "Hey." And he grabbed me, and he kissed me, and he hugged me. And when he pulled away, Roxy came running out, and he goes, "Hey, mijo, stay beautiful."